you want to chime in later, feel free. So again, for those of you who just dialed in, this is Sarah Ho, Diamond out of Houston, Texas. I know it says Spencer Wynn on the screen, and I know we kind of look alike, but obviously he's busy today. So I wanted to talk about, first of all, before we dive into a training, I want to see if there's any upfront questions that anybody has that's been burning, that maybe they encountered a challenge. I'm going to go ahead mute out everybody here, so that way if you guys want to engage, then you can unmute yourself, but just so that's a little bit easier to hear. If there's any burning questions about a challenge that you encountered this week, or if you even want to share a victory, I think those are equally important to celebrate. So I'll go ahead and open it up. Any questions, challenges, victories, or even gratitude on our core group calls every night. We actually start with gratitude. That's something very big in our group for culture, things that you're grateful for. So for those of you just dialing in, go ahead and share. You can unmute yourself. Gratitude, challenges, victories, what's going on in your world. We'll take 3 people and then we'll go ahead and jump to the training. 3 people. We're going to sit here until 3 people choose to participate. Go ahead, John. Go for
Hi,
it.
Sarah.
Oh, yes, go ahead. John, you can go after. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Sarah. Well, I'd love to start with gratitude. I'm really thankful for the place that I am and the leadership that all of you guys are providing for all of us here. My journey has just been amazing, and I've recently, finally got over, getting over the nose. I look forward to getting the nose, I no longer feel intimidated or scared or anything like that. I know how to pique people's interest. I now know how to guide the conversation. And so, I'm just really thankful and grateful that I have this opportunity from you guys. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing, Elaine. Snaps for Elaine. Okay, great. John, I think you had your hand raised. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I did. I'm logged on from my desktop as well now. But actually, the gratitude thing, I was talking to Nick Hassel last night, and we were actually talking about how wonderful this is just to have the accountability amongst the group. And he and I were talking about, Nick actually brought up the idea, hey, why don't we keep this going after the 30-day boot camp and try to do it at least a few times a week? And I said, it's great. You can even do it in as small of a group as 2 people being accountable to one another. And I know that's why a lot of the successful business partners like Spencer and Kevin and you and Sonia and other people do so well, because they have that continued built-in accountability day in and day out. And but anyway, this really kind of got us up off of our butts to do something and try to be consistent with it. And so it's been very helpful for that. So
awesome. And I can tell Nick agrees because he's smiling. He's like, yep, that's the truth. So I appreciate you sharing that. And just for those of you who totally are on board with continuing the accountability afterwards, I really encourage you to find a partner who makes you step up, who makes you level up, who's not gonna just accept, hey, I won't tell on you if you don't tell on me type of deal, right? Because those people don't stand for you in this business, right? If they were really serious, they would call you out. And some of you, that may agitate you, but if you actually are serious about getting results in this business, you have to have a partner who doesn't make you wrong for it, but they're gonna hold you accountable. They're not saying, hey, John, what's the matter with you? Aren't you? I thought you were serious. It's saying, hey, you said you're going to do this, and right. This is marked off. How can I support you? What can we do to make it happen, right? So that's the type of accountability, and that also comes with leadership. That also comes with communication. So in addition to IVAs, PD is equally important, right? So it's important that you are also leveling up mentally on the inner game as well as the outer game, which is what we call the hard skills, right? Which is a whole separate training in itself. But accountability is so important, and 30 days is just when you start revving up, So our group is doing a 10-week accountability all the way up into homecoming, and so that's 5 nights a week. But I'm thinking, after this 10 weeks is over, I guess we should just start another group to go again, because once you set up this structure, it's easy because you know what to plug into, and you have something to, because we all operate best in structure. right? That's just the reality. Even if we're free spirited, it's like, okay, I know that I can be crazy and free inside this box. And that box is not to limit you, it's to give you clarity, right? And so I think that that's something important that people understand. Jamie Hartwell, she just shared into the chat, I'm grateful for this team. I haven't felt alone at all. And that made me so happy to read, because obviously before Zoom calls and before all these Facebook Lives started being implemented, it was restricting to have to build in, face-to-face and build in physical markets, when now we can go here and still have that intimate connection where we can see each other's face, hear each other's voice, and be a group, right? So otherwise, I will let Jamie's chat count as number 3. So thank you guys for kicking it off with your gratitude, your shares. That's how I like to begin every call is, go ahead and share with this group, because that's where the bond happens. I don't want to ever just be talking at you guys, but I like for you guys to share your challenges, your victories, as well as gratitude or anything that's going on. So otherwise, welcome to the call. For those of you who just dialed in, we're going to go ahead and jump into training unless there's any other burning questions or shares. So the training that I'm about to share, I actually created, man, time goes by fast in this business, maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, at least, on the Emerald and Above call. David Nieves couldn't do a call one night with the Emeralds and Above inside Team Fusion that were hand selected to be in this accountability group with him. And so he asked me to lead a training, and I said, what could I train for? Actually, this was a Ruby and Emerald call. Ruby and Emeralds, where it's not just on the hard skills, because at that level, your skills should be pretty solid, even though they continue to be solidified as you go through this business. But how can I address a training and tailor it to people who have somewhat of an organization and they've encountered certain challenges? And then after I led the training, I also released it into a Jade and Above training in Houston, maybe 6 months ago, or within this past year. And the feedback that we got, well, first of all, the feedback that we got from the Rubies and Emeralds was that it was extremely necessary to train on something that seemed fundamental, but was also important from a leadership perspective. But when we shared at the Jade and Above, people were like, I think we should be training this from the very beginning, because it's all about setting proper expectations, right? And so I'm going to train on creating a winning environment and unlocking the vault to your full potential. Okay, so everyone look excited, like it's going to help you, okay? So we're going to go ahead and screen share. Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you guys can see my screen? Thumbs up? Okay, and again, I'm going to really encourage you all to unmute yourself so that if you have questions, go ahead and chime in, or even if you have a comment. Unfortunately, when I screen share with Google Slides, as much as I love Google, when I go full screen, I can't see you guys anymore. So if you guys raise your hand, I'm not gonna be able to call on you. So if you have to unmute yourself to say, hey, Sarah, I have a question, or hey, that reminds me of a comment, or hey, this has actually been a challenge for me. How do you propose this? Just unmute yourself. This is a group conversation, okay? All right, so for those of you who I would encourage you to be taking notes right now. Make sure that you have something to write with. We're gonna talk about creating a winning environment, unlocking the vault to your full potential. So as you know, for combination locks, it requires one set sequence or series of numbers, right? So this lock, for example, it requires 4 digits, and all 4 digits must be correct in order for this to unlock. And so if you have 3 out of the 4 digits, like 3 of them were correct, but the 4th one is not, will this lock open? No, right? Or if you have 2 out of the 4, definitely not. Certainly not 1 or 0 out of 4. And a lot of people treat this business like it's a janky lock that opens, even when they don't understand that you can't just have the skills. You can't just have the mindset. You can't just have the work ethic. You can't just have the heart and the passion. You have to have all of them. You have to have clarity, integrity, all the things that go into building a successful business. Otherwise, your potential will not unlock. And people who don't understand that end up getting super frustrated because they're just like, what the heck? I'm like working so hard, and they don't know why their vault is not opening. Does that make sense? It's just like a recipe. And imagine someone baking a cake and they leave out the sugar. That cake might turn out a little weird, right? And so it's important to understand success, just like any other recipe, has a formula. It has a combination, and you have to understand how to execute any and all parts of it so that you can get the results that you want to, so that you feel in control and you're confident about your business because you know how to diagnose and troubleshoot your own business. So let's talk about it. What is lacking in many organizations? By the way, if you're on a phone and you turn it horizontally so this is full screen, you can actually zoom in on these slides like you would a picture. Okay, I don't know if you guys knew that, but you guys can actually zoom in on any of these slides that you need to see bigger on your phone. But what is lacking in many organizations? It's usually 1 to 4 or a combination of these things. Clarity, right? Your people don't know what to do, or the leaders don't even know where to lead them, right? Standards, maybe your standards are too low. We'll talk about that. Integrity, I've seen some of the most talented communicators come through this industry, and their businesses just keep falling apart because they have no integrity, right? Or maybe heart, and we'll talk about that as well. So let's first talk about clarity. So clarity is so important to have, because if your people don't know what to do, how to do it, why they're doing it, because you didn't set proper expectations, it's literally like putting on a blindfold on a brand new person, asking them to sprint straight forward and just say, trust me, right? So it's important that we understand that we need to stay in the mindset of a brand new person. Because sometimes, I mean, would you guys agree that after being in this business for a while, you kind of either get jaded or you're in a new elevated mindset, so you forget, oh wow, like you had to think back to when you were brand new, how excited, how scared you were. I remember literally the day that I enrolled into my first network marketing company, I told my mentor, who enrolled me into everything, like the events, all that stuff, I told her, she goes, how do you feel? And I said, overwhelming. It's overwhelming and exhilarating at the same time. Right? And you had to understand that that's how a lot of new people feel. And she even a year later remembered the exact words that I said, because it was overwhelming because so much was happening. I feel like I made a huge decision, maybe not financially because it was only $500 to get started in that company. But all of a sudden I was exhilarated by the possibilities that were opened for me now. And so understanding that your new people are going through all these feelings, anxiety, excitement, nervousness, empowerment, all those things. Be patient with the process, but your job is to be clear on these things. So let's talk about it. When someone says, what do I do? So many leaders will give you so many convoluted things, but I really love just giving them network marketing 101 in 30 seconds. Here it is. You make a list, you approach the list, expose the list, and launch, which is really just repeating steps 1 through 3 with a new business partner. So making a list, obviously, that's where we always start, not in your head. 8 out of 10 people who enter network marketing, this is a stat from Eric Worre, 8 out of 10 never make a physical list. They make a mental list of 3 to 5 names and then base their success in this industry off of those 3 to 5 people, the response of those 3 to 5 people. So already by making a list, you're setting yourself apart from the 80% who enter this business and treat it like a lottery ticket, right? We talk about that all the time. So making a list, getting the names on paper, that's the first step. Approaching the list is just a fancy word to say inviting, right? So we make a list, invite the list. Expose, obviously, is to present, to share, whether it's sharing links, adding to the Facebook groups, getting them on a Zoom, getting them to a live event, sharing the products with them. Just exposures. Kayani's now in their world, and you're following up. You're touching them from this angle with the samples, from this angle with some links, from this angle by dialing them into a call, right? And then once they enroll, you launch, which is, what is a launch? Some people get so confused and overcomplicate this. It's just repeating steps 1 through 3 with a new partner. So let's say that I enroll John. So John, I'm going to help him make a list. I'm going to teach him how to approach the list, and I'm going to expose that list with him. And then he enrolls Nick. And then Nick, we're like, oh, we got to launch him, but I wonder how we do that. We're going to make a list with Nick, and we're going to approach the list with Nick and expose that list with Nick, and we're going to repeat. Okay, is this making sense so far? Yes? Okay, so let's talk about how to create this clarity, okay? Create a supportive environment for role play. I have never, ever let someone loose to just go invite somebody without role playing with me first. First of all, they don't know what to say. Second of all, they're not emotionally prepared unless they've been in sales. No, actually, no. No matter where they've been before, if they have not been in this organization, inside Kayani, inside my group, it's not the same. Okay, that's the difference. And so they have to understand that role play is essential. You have to understand that as a leader. Role play is essential because imagine if a surgeon's first practice was on a real human being. They would never do that, right? For those of you who know my story, I was going to enter dental school prior to network marketing. And when I was touring all these dental schools, they had all these like dummies with these fake mouths open, and they're like doing this work in there because you have to role play, right? For theater, there's dress rehearsal, okay? And as you do that, guess what happens? Your confidence goes up along with your competence level. Okay, having call parties. This is more for the markets who are building live, face-to-face, in-person. I still encourage you to do this if you're building within your own market, but if you're building a lot via Zoom, you can actually still do this. Coach calls like that. And then inspect what you expect, right? So that goes with number 1 and 2 is creating these situations where people feel like they can mess up in a safe place, okay? How many of you read The Talent Code, right? The Talent Code by, I can't remember, something Doyle. Talent Code. I listened to the audiobook. David Nieves recommended it, and he talks about a soccer team that practices not on a normal size field, but on a much smaller one. Why? Because they get like 400 to 800% times the amount of contacts that they would in a regular game. So they're contacting the ball so much more, and they are having to be so much more intense and run so much harder because everyone's so much closer that you have to be on your game. And when you're focused and you're contacting the ball so much more and you're doing reps like that, it's called deep practice. Okay, so it's not just practice where, oh, I sent a text here, I made a call here. You're sitting down and you are calling like 20 people back to back. First of all, it's more efficient. Second of all, you get in flow and you get into what we call deep practice. And that is really when you actually lock in a skill. Not, I've been in this business for 3 months and I still don't feel confident, inviting people. It's because you haven't gone into deep practice. That's why, right? So whether you haven't been in it or you have, you need to create the environment for your group to go into deep practice, because this is where confidence is not just built, but locked in, right? So why do I feel like I could invite anybody anywhere? 1, because I've done it 1,000 times. 2, because I've been rejected 2,000 times, right? But I've also been in call parties myself. I've also hosted environments where we're just like blitzing, right? So does this make sense? These professional soccer players are practicing on a field that's maybe like half the size of normal, so they can double, triple, quadruple the amount of contacts that they're getting with the ball. Their technique is sharp and their focus is intense. This is what we call deep practice, okay? So we talked about what we do, how to do it. Now, why do we do what we do? Now, of course, remember, this was originally an Emerald training, but for those of you who already have groups, if you don't have a downline yet, know that this is something for the future. It'll register later, something to still take note of though. If I asked you, who are your main projects right now? Could you answer instantly, or would you be like, I don't know, right? Or even if you're just like, oh, I don't have any leaders, everyone's still new. No, if they're brand new, they should be even more of a project because they're fresh, okay? They have a brand new contact list. They're the most coachable when they first get started, usually. If I asked you what their why was, how long would it take you to answer? Do you know? And more importantly, do you care? Okay, that might be a limiting factor on your business. It might be a lid. I asked this girl on my team who was struggling. This was a while back. And when it came down to it, she just realized that she'd been pretending to care. You have to get in people's world to really understand their story, their journey, and that's when you get connected and committed to them, right? So I remember I was sitting down at lunch with one of my mentors, and he's like, hey, who are your projects? I said, this person, this person. He goes, okay, why is he building the business? And I looked at him for a second, and he just said, too late, right? I realized it's not because I didn't care. It's because I'd gotten so caught up in IVAs, or for those who don't know, that's income bringing activity, or IPA is how I was raised in this industry to call it, income producing activity, or MMA, money making activity, whatever. Your leader may call it different things, but I was so caught up in that sometimes we forget why we're doing this, okay? So make sure that you're clear on not just theirs, but your own why. Why does Grant Cardone and why do all these success gurus encourage you to write it twice a day? Because it changes over time and because you have to stay clear, okay? I'm going to go ahead and back out of this real quick so I can see you guys. Give me a thumbs up if this is making sense. Thumbs up so far, so good. Okay, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, are you guys getting value so far? Yes? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and jump back into here. Okay, so let's talk about setting prepper expectations. So when someone gets started, they're like a newborn baby. They are the most impressionable, and all they know is what you tell them. Literally, all they know is what you tell them. So if you tell them, hey, like, everyone who gets, I'm not saying to lie here, but here's an example, and this is tied in with standards, which we'll talk about here shortly. If everyone is running a power play in their first 2 weeks, they're gonna do that usually because that's all they know, that's all your group knows, and that's what you've created. Oftentimes a lot of leaders let the baggage of all their old people like mix in with their new people. So that's why when new people get started, you kind of have to create a bubble around them and protect them, because otherwise those new people are going to talk to someone who's been in, and they're like, hey, how long you been in? They're like, well, I've been in for 5 years and I'm still a qualified distributor, right? It's like, okay, that person who's brand new, their excitement might wane a little bit. So it has to, you have to make sure that you're setting proper expectations to say, hey, look, there's going to be this schedule of events, right? And I'll talk about that. So for example, this is the schedule that my group has. So they know exactly what to dial in. Down here is our accountability group call, but they at least know in green where to go, because now they're just like, okay, if I need to dial in Saturday morning for the power hour, that's the Zoom ID. If I want to go into the Monday call, where is that again? Oops. It's on the DFY system Facebook group. Well, what about the leadership call on Sunday? It's inside the Team Fusion official. What about the SNL, Team Fusion official, right? And then of course the Zoom IDs for the power hours and then for our own accountability. Okay, so they have the schedule of events. They know when the next regional is. They know when the next international is. If you get pissed that someone doesn't register, but you give them a week of notice, whose fault was that? That's not theirs. It's the leaders, right? So as soon as they get started, they should know that it is an expectation that if you want to be successful in this business, whether it's on a small scale or a large scale, go to at least your first event, and then from there make a decision if you want to keep going to these events or not. But some people are like, okay, if you just want to treat this like a hobby, you don't have to go. Brand new people don't know yet what's available for them here until they go to their first event. So you need to be pushing it hard for all new people, and then after that, you let them start themselves, right? If they're committed or not, and they do that and they show you that through their actions. So schedule of events is part of setting proper expectations. Of course, here it says share the story behind the glory. People, they're like, oh wow, this 21-year-old went diamond in 30 days. Yes, but she's also struggled in this industry for 5 years before she came over to Kyani. We need to make sure we're clear on these things so that people understand the adversity that people have overcome to get there. I let people know, look, the higher rank that people are, the more success they've had, the more crap that they've been through. I promise you that, okay? You could share adversities overcome by leaders. You could share your own personal stories, right? And it also makes you feel more connected when they see, dang, you survived that? Yes, right? Commit, okay, obviously, ERC, TDSers, and SW attitude are some of the biggest things that I emphasize in a quick start launch, right? Or even a soft launch, meaning if they haven't enrolled yet, but we want to tap through, I let them know, hey, look, there's going to be an emotional roller coaster. There are going to be some days that you're so excited because you're about to change your life, and all of a sudden your friend tells you you're in a pyramid scheme, and you're like, what did I just do, right? And then you feel like this. You're like, this was a mistake. How do I send it back, right? Or, you share the product with someone and they say, I didn't like the taste. How can I ship it back? And you're like, dang it, right? And you feel like this little kid right here. You need to set their expectations that this is bound to happen, so that when they're feeling this way, like this little kid is feeling right now, they know, okay, this is just part of the process, but it's not going to be forever. And I'm on the right track, even though it doesn't feel good. And then they're going to feel like this guy. They're like, woohoo, this is the best ever, right? I just got my first partner. I got 2 customers. I'm halfway to my first power play. This is awesome. But it's just because my mentor told me that this was going to be part of the journey, right? So your job is to set the expectations that the emotional roller coaster will happen to you, okay? No matter how emotionally resilient you are, how emotionally soft or not you are, it happens. Because when you have expectations, it's either going to get met or not. And you have to have high expectations for yourself in this business. And you have to also know that there's going to be TDSers, toxic dream stealers, right? You have to let them know, it may even be people who love and care about you the most, and it's coming from a place of love. Don't make their loved ones wrong. Be like, oh yeah, forget about those a-holes. They don't believe in you. No, they just genuinely believe that this is a pyramid, or they genuinely are basing this off of their past experience, but this is not their experience. This is your journey. And I'm committed to you and your business and your success, right? I got your back. And you have to, like we say all the time, inject them with confidence, okay? So we talked about ERC, TDSers, SW attitude. You need to let them know some will, some won't. So what? Someone else is waiting next, right? Because when you give them that structure, they're able to categorize people as people are getting sorted through their invite. Otherwise, they're like, oh my God, what's happening, right? So part of setting proper expectations is say, hey, like some will, some won't. So what? So who's next, right? And then also commit to the 5-year plan. Tell them to treat this like a university so they can get that MBA, right? We all know that's a what? Massive bank account, right? Okay, so we talked about clarity. Let's talk about standards. Okay, so this is the other part of the combination lock for higher level leadership, for growing a successful organization and unlocking your potential as well as your teams. Raising your standards is so important, right? Heightening your personal standards, because your performance as a leader has to come before expectations of your team, okay? Because your team will do as much or less than what you do, almost always. Unless you recruit a rock star and all of a sudden, boom, they explode. They have more talent than you. I mean, you want to be recruiting people who are better than you so you can level up, push your lid a little higher, right? So that you could attract more of those A players. Why do you want A players on your team? Because A players know other A players, right? So that you can become an A player magnet, but you can't do that unless you heighten your personal standards. But where do you need to raise your standards? Obviously, professional, that's supposed to say personal, personal and professional development, right? How many of you are doing PD every single day? Raise your hand if you're doing PD every single day. Okay, a good amount. Okay, PD, keep your hands raised if you're doing PD every single day. Hi, Mr. Sykes, how are you? Enjoyed the cookies and flowers. I've been meaning to send you and your wife a thank you message. Okay, great. Awesome, what's up, Florida? How you doing? Doing PD every day, of course. Okay, great. So obviously, PD every day is essential, right? It's essential because I got obsessed with PD. My mentors never had to tell me, hey, did you listen to PD today? Because I was hooked because I'm the right person. And that's what got me excited. When I first listened to PD, John C. Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership was the first PD that we watched at our session like 4 years ago when I first got started in this industry. 4.5 years ago, dang, right? Anyway, that was the first, and I was like, wow, mind blown. And so the only time they ever touch base with me as far as PD is concerned is to give me a suggestion. Hey, listen to this, listen to that. But I was like eating it all up. If I was waking up, if I was getting ready for bed, if I was in the shower, if I was cooking, if I was walking around on campus because I was in college at the time, I was listening. I was plugged in because you have to understand that, for most of you, let's say however old you are, let's say 40. You have 40 years of programming to reprogram. It's not because you've been wrong up to this point, but you've been programmed to get the results that you've gotten so far, which maybe you've been programmed to be a phenomenal parent, a phenomenal employee, a phenomenal whatever, but you have not yet been programmed to become a leader in this industry. So it's going to take a whole lot of programming and reprogramming some of those beliefs. So if you want to condense your time frame to not take another 40 years to become a master at something, be plugged in every single day, right? I don't even have PD on my power list because it's just a way of life now. It'd be like putting shower and breathe and eat breakfast on my power list, right? It's just part of what I do now. So make sure that it becomes part of your lifestyle. If you're brand new here on the call, or if you're not listening to every day, I really would encourage you. Here's some names. Jim Rohn, JimRohn, John C. Maxwell, Darren Hardy, Brian Tracy, Robin Sharma, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, Matt Morris, Eric Worre. These are all names that you can look up. Les Brown, Eric Thomas. Now, some of them, Brendan Burchard, you're going to want to listen to all of them because some of them have different styles. Some of them are more focused on the rah, gets you pumped, right? So like, I'll listen to like Les Brown if I'm about to get on stage. I'm like, yes, gotta be hungry, right? Or if I'm struggling with time management, structure, discipline, like Brian Tracy, Darren Hardy, done. They're like the best at that, right? Brendan Burchard, Robin Sharma, more of a calm tone. Eric Worre, Matt Morris, great generic training content for network marketing. Jim Rohn is just life success, awesome. So listen to some of those individuals and integrate it into your daily routine. Okay, timeliness, dress attire, effort. How are your standards on that? I honestly have to find some pictures of me when I first got started in this industry. Like, it was a mess, man. It was a mess. And Sonia would give me so much crap. For those of you who know, Sonia's my business partner and older sister, I'll say. People always think I'm the older one because she looks younger. She's 5 years older, and she's been in the corporate world for much longer. So she is naturally, always dressed to the nines. And she's always saying, she's saying, Sarah, you should really, because I was always like a t-shirt and jeans type of person, right? My philosophy was, if my friends love me, they love me, right? They don't. And she's just like, you never know who you're going to run into. And I was just like, right? It just wasn't important to me at the time. I didn't understand. But I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but you all know that how you dress impacts how you carry yourself, does it not? How many of you, ladies, I know this is the truth, if you leave the house, your hair isn't done, your makeup's not done, your posture, if you pay attention, you're at the mall, you're like, I hope nobody sees me, right? That's like how you're walking out in the world. And if you're saying, I hope nobody sees me, you're just being smaller, right? And other days when, even men, you're like looking sharp, you're like looking fresh, you're just like confident, your chest is higher because you feel good, right? Feel good, look good, do good, or do well, for those of you grammar Nazis, right? But my point is, it is important that people see that you take care of yourself and you care enough to present yourself well. Some of you are still where I was literally probably like 6 months ago. I still was like getting used to this whole concept because I'm communication, for example, is my strength. So even if I was like literally 3 days ago, I had just come home from the gym. So no, I did not look super put together, but because of my posture, I was still able to prospect and cold market someone who has taken a look at the resources, and I have an appointment with him on Monday. So no, your suit or your dress will not do it for you, but it is important. It is still essential to how you deliver. Okay? And we all know that even if you were the prospect, remember, if you had two people standing in front of you, one of them looked like they haven't even brushed their teeth yet and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the other one looks like, man, they're sharp, right? They're all like, good, what's it called? Hygiene, right? They're well dressed. They look like they take care of themselves. If you were to build a multi-million-dollar business to give financial freedom to your family, who would you rather lead you? Who would you rather follow, right? So sometimes it's just something that we need to heighten our personal standards for, okay? Dress attire, timeliness. I will have you all know that timeliness has been a weakness of mine, right? So, up until recently, it's been like, I don't know why, but my whole life, I've just been late to everything because it was just like, we call it Asian time, but I realize people call it Black time or Hispanic time. I'm like, okay, so this is a human thing. This is not just like an Asian thing, right? And the reality is that especially when it comes to business, if you don't even take your business seriously enough to show up for it on time, literally this call just about doubled at 10:04. This power hour starts at 10, right? So it just goes to show me, and I'm not making those of you who dialed in late, I don't even remember who dialed in late, I just looked at the numbers, that you're not showing up to this call intentionally to change your life. You're showing up kind of like, all right, there's a power hour, I'm going to go ahead and dial in now, right? And maybe some of you are saying, oh, but I had to prepare breakfast for the kids, or I got stuck in traffic, or my phone wasn't working, right? The reality is, you could have made breakfast 4 minutes earlier. You could have made sure you dialed in 4 minutes earlier if your phone wasn't working so you could get on your computer, whatever. And so all these things are preventable. And I'm coming from a place of love because I've struggled with this like my whole life. And literally in the last 6 months after I went through a training where it transformed my understanding of integrity and being of your word. And now not 100%, but like 90%, I'm on time or early to these appointments because I understand the value and importance of it. And before anyone could tell me what I'm telling you right now, but I just didn't get it. But I had to transform how I understood integrity. And we'll talk a little bit about that, okay? Timeliness, dress attire, effort, right? Again, it comes with these things. Little things like note taking. Raise your hand if you're taking notes right now. How many of you guys are taking notes? Let me see here. Taking notes. Awesome. Steven, are you taking notes? Oh no. Busted. Thank you for your honesty. Okay, thank you everyone. So, obviously, Steven, I'm just gonna use it as an example because I love you, right? So it's still better that he's here than not, right? He's getting the information. But the reality is, for those of you who are writing these things down, you're gonna, even if you are part of the 97 faulty percent who never look back at your notes, at least you wrote it down and it's going to be in your memory a lot better. Okay. And you're going to engage, and not only note taking, but note taking as if you're going to teach this. We talk about that all the time, but from the get go, like from the go, when I first got started, everything I took notes on, I already saw myself training because that was my intention. I didn't get in this business to just like for fun. Like I got in it because I wanted to lead other people. Right. And so that was always my intention when I entered these trainings. Offering help. This is included in the little things, right? So like if we're doing a regional event, you're offering, hey, need help with anything? First of all, the leader's going to pay attention. Second of all, you get more insight on how to run an event, right? Because leaders know how to. And you get to ask questions before and after. So for example, on some of our calls for accountability, if people dial in before 10 a.m. or whenever the call starts, that's a chance for us to have some personal coaching. And I just like, literally, for those of you who know, I'm training right now for triathlon, and like swimming is like $50 an hour, right? For private coaching. And if you guys understood the value that you guys are getting from your leaders, if you guys had to pay, would you guys agree that you guys would show up a little bit more seriously? If you guys are paying $50 right now first of all, I'd be like rolling in cash, right? I'd be like $50 times 25. What is that, right? But it's important that you guys understand that if you don't show up with the intention to transform your life, you're not going to, right? And treat it like, okay, I'm spending $50 for like 40 minutes to be in this pool. I'm going to freaking swim my ass off, right? I'm going to swim my heart out because I want to get from this training. Right? So same thing happens here. Showing up early, participating, right? Just like those individuals who chose to share at the beginning of this call, those people showed up to get it, right? Daily disciplines, right? I don't have to explain much there, but you can't expect things to change if you don't change anything in your daily habit. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to keep it on this partial screen here so I can still see you guys. Is that okay? Can you guys still see my screen? Yes? Okay. Let's see here. Oops. Okay. Raising the bar also includes urgency and action, right? So we have this saying where you want to treat each new person like they are your next diamond, but act as though they will quit tomorrow. Let's break that down here for a second. Some people come into this business so excited, but they're unrefined, and you have to understand that, right? Like when I first got started, I could like invite and like recruit like a boss, but I had so much else to work on, like my dress attire, like my timeliness. And if someone didn't treat me like I had diamond potential, I don't know if I would be here. They'd be like, oh, she just a college kid, right? So I'm not going to put much time there. When really, because someone committed to my success, because they saw diamond potential in me, that's why I was able to develop, right? But you have to act like they're going to quit tomorrow. Okay. So for example, some of you are like, okay, wow, this person's sharp. I'm going to treat them like my next diamond, no matter where they are, but I'm going to act like they're going to quit tomorrow. If they're going to quit tomorrow, you better taproot when? Today, right? Even if they're just like, hey, I, don't have 2 hours to sit down to do a full-blown blitz through my list until tomorrow. Hey, no problem. Let's just talk to 3 today. Can we do that? You know what I mean? And I promise you that when you are doing little things like that, this is a game of inches that will compound. And I'm telling you, some of the biggest leaders in this industry, and like they've shared with me these stories that some of their highest income earners in their group were a referral of someone who didn't even end up like committing. Isn't that wild, right? So they may not always, commit to that, but your job is to always offer that as a possibility, right? Events, non-negotiable. Your team can't afford for you to take their excuses. Let me say that again. Your team can't afford for you to accept their excuses. Some of you are being so, and this is coming from a whale, by the way. For those who know the personalities, like Sonia and I have been over nurturers, meaning we've learned to kind of like, let our team fly a little bit so that they can grow, because you will hinder them otherwise. But you're like, oh man, but they have 6 kids or this or that. They can't afford for you to accept their excuses. Otherwise, they're going to stay where they are, right? So we say, make no excuses, take no excuses, right? And then for the events, the more you take, the more you make. So it goes both ways. You have to understand that you have to come from a place of love when obviously you have to understand the personality type. If you could show them how important and non-negotiable these events are, you need to let them know, see them for where they can be if they go, and then show them where they will be if they don't go. But you have to take morality out of it. That's what effective communicators and leaders do. Is I'm not going to say, hey, Elaine, like if you don't go, I ain't working with you. That's some leader styles. But what I found is that like people will commit to this business when they know that you're going to be there for them, like no matter what. But that doesn't mean to lower your standards. What I mean is I'm not going to make Elaine wrong. I'm going to let her know, look, I know that you have, Elaine, what is it, 3 kids, 4 kids? 3 kids?
I have 3.
3?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, kind of 4. I had a nephew, but I kicked him out, so I have 3 now.
Okay, we'll say 3. We'll say 3.5, right? So,
okay.
For example, Elaine is like, and I'm using Elaine as an example because she's probably one of the most committed people to events. We can all agree, right? If there's an event, Elaine's there. Awesome. And that's why she's growing. Point being is that if she can't go, or she thinks that she can't go in her world, I'm going to say, hey, look, because I'm her leader, I know her why, right? So let's just say, for example, that it's to make sure that she has money in the bank to pay for when her 3 kids are all in college at the same time, for example, right? How many of you have put a kid through college? It is like no joke financially, right? So let's just say I say, hey, like if I wouldn't be pushing so hard for this event if I didn't see potential in you. And I also know how important it is to you that, let's get this out here real quick. And I also know how important it is to you that we have money in the bank so that your kids don't have to limit their choice of school, right? So I just want to show you, if we go to this event, it's going to create the possibility that we can create the financial situation where your son, your daughter, they can be like, hey, mom, I want to go to this school. It's my dream school. And you say, let's do it, right? Versus if we don't go to this event, and I want you to imagine, let's say that they're like 14 right now. 4 years from now, they get into their dream school, but you can't afford it. You just let that sit for a little bit. That's just you're just painting 2 different realities, right? And just the getting present and confronting that as a potential reality will usually propel them, if they're serious about that desire, serious about that goal. Does this make sense at all? Is this landing anywhere? Okay, so it's important that you guys understand that you just present to them options and you let them choose. You let them choose. But your job as a leader is to show them option A or option B, right? If you're okay with them, going to a school that they don't really love, that's fine. But when you had the chance to create a different scenario for them, like you have to go to sleep with that. But as your leader, I do too, because I'm here committed to your success, right? So you have to understand that your job as a leader is to create that A-B scenario for them. Okay. So let's go ahead and keep going here. Okay, so here, if you set the bar too low, you will lose the winners. If you set the bar too high, you're going to lose the losers. Who would you rather lose? It's not if you're going to lose people. You're going to lose people anyway. And I can tell you right now that the top reason why people don't start like raising the bar on their team, first of all, it's easier to just start off with a high bar for your new people so that the standard's been set. Because it's harder to be like, hey, everyone, we're going to, you know, have events once a month and then dial into a call once a week versus starting off with like 3 calls a week. So it's structured, right? And then, you know, all these things. But it's harder to push someone to a higher than to hold them at a higher standard. And if people are like, that's too high, then that's not your next diamond. I'm not saying ever. They're just not ready yet. If maybe they come back 6 months later that, hey, I'm ready to commit, you just tell me what to do, that's a different situation. But I'm saying you need to hold your standard for people to meet. Don't let your standard come down to meet your people. Big mistake. Big mistake. And the reason why people don't raise their standard, because it's uncomfortable, or hold that high standards, because they have a scarcity mindset. They go, no, but if I do that, I'm going to lose people. I'm going to piss people off if I get on them for being late. Okay, then good luck building a professional business late all the time. Because all of a sudden, when you attract a real A player, they're going to be like, it's 10:04. Why haven't we started? They're not going to take you seriously as a leader anymore, and they're not going to want to bring their professional network around you. Is this making sense? So if you're going to lose people anyway, who would you rather lose, right? People who have low standards for themselves, or hold them up to a high standard that kind of scares you, but it makes you step up, right? And I'm telling you that while it's scary, while it's uncomfortable, your business will be better off because you're attracting high caliber people. And this business is so fun. It's so much easier when you have influencers in your business. Okay, so let's talk about integrity. We've talked about standards. We talked about clarity. We're going to start rolling through this because we have about 12 minutes left. Integrity, okay? So this, of course, encompasses ethics, follow through, credibility, and being of your word. So when you talk about following strength, we always talk about, I mean, one of the laws of leadership for John C. Maxwell is that people follow people that they feel are stronger than them, but not just in conviction, but in character, okay? So my question to you is, what would your team say if they saw what you did when they weren't around? As I was making these slides, I was like, dang, right? Sometimes it's like a wake-up call to yourself, right? But it's also important to understand that that's what integrity is not just doing it for show, not just turning it on, being on your A game when these calls are on, but also when they're not. That's actually the true test, right? Do you tell the truth to prospects and business partners always? Truth is not like a yes sometimes thing. It's either you do or you don't. Like, there are a few things in life that are black and white, but this is one of them, right? So we're like, when people say, oh, I didn't know, it's like you knew exactly what you were saying to that person. And as soon as someone, as a prospect, or even someone who's following you and looking up to you as a leader, as soon as they find a hole in your integrity, it's so hard to come back from that. I'm just telling you guys right now. And then other leaders won't want to work with you because it's going to tarnish their reputation, right? So who knows what CYA stands for? Anybody? Anyone want to unmute yourself? I'll just say it for everybody. Cover your ass, right? That's what it stands for. Because if you're telling the truth always, you're covering your ass, right? If you're just like, oh, hey, you know, I'm not supposed to do this, but blah, 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 blah. And before you know it, like, companies have literally been shut down because, you know, someone said on a call that XYZ product cured them of this, like arthritis or something like that. And someone happened to be listening on the call who worked with the FTC. And that company ended up getting shut down, right? So it's like, oh, I didn't know that. It's like, no, we all know how to be compliant. You never know who's listening, right? And you never know who's going to pay the price. That whole company got shut down because of that lady, right? So it's important that it's obviously not just because of that lady. Who knows? Maybe the company wasn't doing enough training on compliance and integrity, but it's important that we're not making false income claims. You are covering yourself always, because people who lack integrity, sometimes they're going to seep into your business, but they'll wash out if you hold strong to your integrity, okay? Cover yourself, because even when times are under question, you could say, you know that you did the right thing the whole time, okay? So let's talk about follow through. This is how you build credibility, okay? Do what you say you're going to do, and people are going to respect and trust you. Some people are so worried about edification, like, oh, my team doesn't edify me. Well, if you keep, keeping on and following through on your word, they're going to edify you automatically, right? So sometimes maybe you're like a pearl, or like you're a sapphire, and your jade keeps edifying the diamond like they're freaking Superman. They edify you like your neighbors, right? And they're like, what the heck, right? Not only do they not know that they're hurting their business by doing that, but they're brand new, they don't know. But if you keep on following through, they're going to respect you and they're going to trust you. And I'm telling you, there have even been people that we didn't even train on edification. And when I hear them talk about Sonia, they're just like, oh yeah, Miss Sonia, oh my God, she's got your back. And like, they're genuinely edifying. The worst thing is when you're like edifying because you have to, and you're kind of just like, yeah, this person is a great leader, blah, blah, and then it's so empty. Then you may as well not be edifying because you don't believe in it. Make sense? Yes? So it's important that you are evaluating, where are you not following through? Late, missed appointments, unreturned calls. James Bradford is one of the best people at responding to messages. I'm so impressed because responding to I miss messages all the time, but it's something that I'm working on. But he has like 1,000 messages a day. And every time I message him, like 97% of the time, he's like, hey, yeah. And he like gets my question answered so fast. So what is the reputation that you're building with every action or inaction that you take? So whenever you're like at a fork in the road, you need to be thinking, what kind of reputation am I building if I take this decision or if I take this inaction? Okay. So integrity, would you follow you? Would your mentors be proud of you? These are important questions to ask yourself. And more importantly, this is something that meant a lot to me. This may not resonate with some of you, but if you've ever met Kirk Hansen in an intimate setting and actually get to know his character, you take this question seriously. Would Kirk Hansen be proud to have you as a business partner? Right? And some of you, it's like, we need to step up, right? Because they really do believe this is a partnership and we're not carrying our weight, right? So it's important to remind ourselves of these questions to reflect. Last thing is heart. Okay, we've talked about clarity, standards, integrity. The last is heart. Okay, if you want to build a diamond ship, you better build a friendship. That's what Holton Buggs, one of the top earners in this industry, said. And I mean, when you do IBAs, income producing activity, income bringing activities, focus. But host team bonding outside of that. Because if you don't, people will actually resent this business. Remember, this is a leadership talk. If you're brand new to the call, I'm just being real. If you just like hammer Kyani all the time, all day, every day, yes, there's a time to blitz, but long term, if you don't do anything outside of that with your people, then they're going to be like, I don't even know what to do because I'm sacrificing so much and my life is way out of whack now. You have to do stuff that is non-Kyani related, and you have to promote that as well, life balance, because people are watching you when you're building this business, and they're like, oh my gosh, I would never want to do what so-and-so is doing. I don't want to do Kyani. But if they see, wow, so-and-so is able to build a business successfully and they're still like going out doing fun stuff and they're killing it, in their job and they're a great dad at home, that's awesome. I want to do that. They're seeing you live out what you're saying, okay? People will quit on a business, but rarely will they quit on a friend. So you had to build these friendships, right? And so here are some pictures of a team potluck that we had for our group. We actually hosted this at a partner's house in Cyprus. So everyone brought food. We made dream boards. People shared what their vision was with each other. And this is where the bond happens. Doesn't this look fun? Doesn't anybody want to be there? Yeah, lots of good food, right? And more importantly, you guys are committing to your future with each other. Okay, so make sure that you're doing those things. So what's your combination? Do you have true clarity on what to do, what you want, what your team wants, and why they want it? Have you been setting proper expectations for your group with the ups and downs and having long-term vision from day one, right? Maybe that's the number or the digit that you're missing in your dial, right? Do you truly love your team and want to see them win more than you want to win yourself? Some people, they want to be leaders because they think that it's so prestigious. But some people want to be leaders because they genuinely are committed to the mission to bring people to the top. There's a difference in your motivation and your desire, right? Do you know their life at home? Do you know what's their vision for their future, right? If you want to build a diamond ship, you have to build a what? A friendship. That's right. Okay. So it's important that you understand that friendship comes first. But at the same time, remember, I know that it's like, this is one of those things that's not black and white. Yes, you want to get in their world, but at the end of the day, if you have to choose between, just like Becky Purcell said, being their friend and being their leader, be their leader because you want to get them the result. And in the end, they're going to love you anyway. Okay. So standards, are you holding yourself to the highest possible standard? Right? I can tell you right now that half this call is not because they showed up at 10:04, 10:06, 10:07. That's not, you know what I mean? I don't want to have to train on that again, but that's not the highest standard for you. I know that you guys can do better than that. Are you working to deserve what you want? So a lot of you know what you want, but are you guys actually working to deserve it? That's a question to think about. Okay, so what do you want from your team? Man, I really want them to be committed. I want them to all run a power play. I want them to be dialed in early to these calls. So then you do it first. Okay, so those are the key components to unlocking this vault. So I encourage you and I invite you to measure where you're falling short in any of those. Are you not taking your team outside of the business to actually get in their world, to have fun, right? You have to cater to your dolphins, right? The people who love to party. Those, by the way, your dolphins, the people who love to like party and have fun, those are your vision casters. Those are going to be the ones who get people the most jacked up and inspired. That's the dolphin strength. Dolphins, they'd be a freaking mess when it comes to logistics, but they're so much fun. But if you don't have fun in this business, you're gonna lose all your dolphins, right? And then if you don't, make sure that you're having integrity, or if you're not clear, if you're not supporting, you're gonna lose your whales. You need your nurturers too. If everyone was a shark in your business, freaking you'd be like a turn and burn, body count, right? There's all these people who are sponsor monsters, recruiting, and they're like, hey, good luck, next, right? They're not nurturing their people, right? So you need nurturers too. And that's why it's so important that you understand and you're able to diagnose and troubleshoot your own business based on these standards. Okay, so did this training add value? Did this training help? Yes, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute. Actually, go ahead and unmute yourself and we'll take the top 5 people on what did you take away from this training. I'm just gonna read this right now. Jam, my phone said not where I can have video on, but I want to say thank you for taking your time to teach us this morning. You're welcome. Should you taking notes? What if you had a meeting on $1 million deal? What would you do? Oh, what you do, what it takes to be there. Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's right. Let's get these slides. Yes, I can send these. Perfect. So we'll take 5 on people who showed up with the intent to transform your life. What did you get from this training?
Well, I just want to say that, I mean, I'm part of like Miss Sarah's like core group. Like we have like accountability call, and like it is true. Like, I mean, once you have like these 4 things and you truly live it, like integrity, clarity, heart, and standards, and it's easier like to do this business. Like I, for example, I struggle a lot because I was just like, I don't know anybody. I don't know who to talk to, and but it just like just like having a good leader that actually supports you, it like truly makes you accountable, like truly tells you like, okay, just you can do it, like you just like there's so many resources that you can do. And like that's what Miss Sarah like showed me. Like, I mean, there is like a bunch of resources of things I can do, like to actually get people and meet new people, because that was my biggest struggle, like finding like 2 new contacts. But I mean, that's like the, like for everybody, it's like this is easy to do, even though you're nervous or like super shy like me. Like you can do it.
That's right. Awesome. Thank you. And then John B said, my best take on today's training is to lead by example. And I mean, like, you can hear that over and over again, but sometimes it just lands differently for where you are in your business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. To lead by example, you've got to do a lot of what you train today in order to do that. You have to look the part, you have to be the part, you have to take the first steps. So there's a lot that is encompassed in that statement, and that's hard to do.
That's right. It is hard to do, but when you do, and it's just a way of life, like even for you, those of you who are parents, like how many of you have seen your kids do something like, where in the world did you learn that? And you're like, oh, right? They were watching you. And so it's so important. William said to know your team personally. Absolutely. William, why don't you go ahead and expand on that? Here, I just unmuted you. I'm trying to unmute you. Go ahead and unmute yourself, William.
Okay, sorry, we're out and about with the family. Well, just to know your team, know them personally, know like y'all were talking about, know what their dreams are, their passion, their why, and even some of their personal life, what they like to do every day, and stuff like that. And I think it makes a better bond for you to be able to call them out when they're not doing the things they need to be doing, or to even just, help them, give them constructive criticism and them not get mad at you.
That's right.
So I think that really helps and makes a stronger team.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for dialing in from wherever you are. Okay, perfect. And so, let's see here. Tanya said, everything really, I have a lot to step up on. Thank you, Sarah. I can't share my camera right now, but I need to work on setting better standards and expectations of my team and to really understand their why. Thank you, Tanya. Elaine said, Sunny used to always tell me that she believed in me, and I used to walk away wondering, why does this chick believe in me so much? She believed in me while I didn't believe in myself yet. That is one of the reasons I'm still here. That's awesome. I'll let Sonia know. Tanya also said, more importantly, setting standards for myself and expectations for me. That's right. Awesome. Okay, we'll take one more. One more person who'd like to share what their takeaway was. Otherwise, I'm assuming the rest of you got nothing out of today.
I can share. It's
Go for it.
I was recently I have 6 kids at home, so I am always in like leggings and a t-shirt, that sort of thing. And so being at ILA, and then what you just said about dress and how you present yourself, and actually taking the time, like for me, it takes an effort to actually have to like do my hair or put makeup on or anything, because it takes so much taking care of everybody else. So that is a big thing for me.
Awesome. Tracy, I think you may have cut out there. Can you hear us? Or Jamie? Jamie Hartwell. Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are.
Okay.
Um,
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Done. That's all I was saying.
Okay, great. So, I mean, especially moms, when you have to take care of everyone else, you guys have heard this probably 1,000 times, but you have to take care of yourself first, because otherwise, I mean, things will become a train wreck. And I know I don't have kids personally, but I really do believe to my core there might not be anything closer to parenting than there is in network marketing. When you're raising so many people up in this industry, there's tons of ways you can mess up, right? But people are counting on you. They're looking to you. You have to support them. You have to nurture them. You're so proud when they have a win. It really is like parenting like a bajillion people at the same time. But you also have to understand that you have to take care of yourself first. And you're going to probably feel better when you're like taking care of your kids, but you also know that you took the time to brush your hair. I'm not saying you have to freaking put on eyelashes and lipstick, but it's like do something so that you feel great about yourself. Yeah, that's right, John. Brush your hair back, slick it back. And so it makes a difference, okay, to make sure that you step up in all those areas. Brian, to answer your question, I don't know anybody who speaks that language. If there's any Filipinos on the line, if you guys know any people who speak Tagalog in Kayani, let us know. We'll send them Brian's way.
I can speak a little Tagalog, but not fluent, but enough to communicate.
Okay, great. Well, Mr. Pencil, why don't you go ahead and connect with Miss Elaine? She might be able to, she's definitely actually going to be able to help you more than I can.
I'm half Filipino.
Awesome. Thank you. See, and that's the power of group, right? It was just me and Brian, then I'd be like, I don't know, right? But this is how we gather our strengths and our resources to be able to help each other win, right? And also what's cool is that Mr. Brian Penso and Elaine are nowhere financially tied in this business, but that's the culture that we have. It's like, hey, I can help, right? That's awesome. So otherwise, I appreciate you all dialing into this call. And for those of you who would like the slide deck, I know some of you guys requested it, go ahead and shoot me a personal message on Facebook with your email, and I will share that with you. And just make sure that you guys reflect on your notes, right? And evaluate, not just reflect on your notes, but choosing an action item that you're going to implement to level up in one of those areas for your combination lock, okay? So maybe it's going to be dressing sharper, showing up earlier, or maybe it's going to be like, you know what, I'm going to reach out to my project and ask them today, I'm going to have a conversation, hey, can you get clear with me? Remind me again, why are you doing this business? right? That could be your action item to take away from today's training. I don't know what it is for you, but get in their world or do whatever you need to do so that you can unlock this full training, okay? Alrighty, well, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and shoot me a personal message. Thank you guys for dialing in, and we will see you guys on SNL. All right, everyone have a good one.